What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Haunted Beard. My name is Jake. Thank you for joining me. So I have been making my way through George A. Romero's zombie movies, and today I want to talk to you about
George A. Romero's Day of the Dead.
This came out in 1985, and as with all of the films that I'll be reviewing in this series, this is a first-time watch. And in Day of the Dead, we open up and are right back in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. Only this time, we are with a group of scientists and military personnel who are sheltering up in an underground bunker, and they must decide on how they should deal with the undead horde. And I have to say, having now watched 3 of these films, really his first zombie trilogy, and these all being first-time watches, I don't know what took me so long to watch these. I can't believe it took me this long to watch these, but I'm glad that I finally did, because this is a very impressive trilogy, as Day of the Dead is another solid entry into Romero's zombie series. And I always start to get a little bit of kind of reservations once you hit to kind of part 3, part 4, into a franchise series of movies, because I feel like very often they become repetitive. It's basically, we're pretty much doing the same thing over and over again, but it's kind of repackaged a little bit differently. But what I've been really impressed with, what Romero has been able to do with these first 3 movies, is he makes each one of them feel unique and fresh and different. And I've been really impressed by that. And even though all 3 of these movies have pretty similar setups, it's the zombie apocalypse and people have to survive, his approach to each of them has been, again, different, and it feels fresh. And really, these films are more about what they're about kind of underneath the surface and what Romero is trying to say kind of underneath what's going on at the surface level. And so it makes the movies feel different, and it makes each one of them stand out as its own unique thing. And this may be a bit of a hot take, but at least on my first initial watch, I think I actually prefer Day of the Dead to Dawn of the Dead just by a little bit. And some of the reasons why, first of all, I like the characters in this one a little bit better. I think they are just a little more memorable. They kind of stand out a little more. I feel like there's some more character depth here. And I think part of that is because a lot of the conflict in the movie is this internal conflict between the characters, and the zombies kind of serve more in the background. They're kind of just in the background with this, looming threat, but a lot of the tension and the drama and the conflict is in between the characters. And so you get more dramatic kind of emotional weight to the whole thing. And so the characters really have to kind of bring something a little bit extra in this movie. I like the lead character, Dr. Bowman, played by Laurie Cardeal. I think she is a pretty solid character and a good lead. She's somebody that you kind of really get to see what she's made out of and what her true character is, given the conflict and the situation and circumstance that she finds herself in. And so you kind of just really get to see who she is and what she's made out of, and her intelligence and her strength and things like that. So I liked her as the lead. I like Dr. Logan, kind of the mad scientist character, just, this kind of eccentric, bizarre, weird kind of guy. He's a character that just stands out and is pretty memorable. And so I liked him. And then also, of course, Rhodes, as horrible as he is definitely a memorable villain. And to be quite honest, he's a bit over the top. He's kind of a bit much in, a handful of scenes to where it kind of loses believability. Some of the whole military crew, those guys they're so over the top and so kind of like ridiculous and evil and gross. It's a bit much, but it does create a memorable villain, or at least memorable villains within the military guys. But at least in presenting them so over the top, you really get kind of invested emotionally in anticipating their demise. And so that part about it works, but I like the characters here pretty well. It's also a film too that I like the pacing better. It doesn't have as much kind of downtime, and it moves along pretty well, and it just feels like there's more going on. And again, that speaks to kind of the internal conflict that he creates. I really bought into the story. And what I like about what he does here is he gets into the complexities of trying to go about solving this type of problem. right? They're at this point now to where I don't know how many years within the movie the apocalypse has been going on for, but now they're at this point to where they're trying to fix the problem and see if they can actually do anything about it. And you've got all these different people with all these different opinions and ideas trying to figure out how to go about solving this issue. And of course, they can't come to any sort of agreement. And really, the movie is about communication and a complete and utter breakdown and failure of that communication, and how that failure just causes things to get worse and worse and worse. And again, there's social commentary woven in here, which I really appreciated. And I like too, the film kind of paints this picture between sort of the scientific approach and then more of the kind of military power type of approach, and that sort of conflict and clash coming together. And I really bought into that. I thought it was just an interesting angle and an interesting way to look at a zombie apocalypse. And I also feel too, like through the main conflict of the movie, Romero's almost presenting these kind of different sort of life philosophies in a way. And it's like these different ways that people approach life, or these ways that people approach conflict and things like that. And like, you know, in one aspect, you've got the military, and some people just live for power and they want to control and exert authority, and it's that whole military power type thing. And then you've got the scientists, and some people are looking at problem solving and trying to go about things in a more intellectual, you know, thoughtful, problem solving, logical kind of way. And then there's a scene that happens like roughly halfway through the movie where Dr. Bowman is sitting down talking to John, who's the pilot, and he kind of gives his sort of philosophy and his approach to it, which is basically, you know, you're not going to solve anything. Sort of history is doomed to repeat itself, so you might as well just do what makes you happy, sort of thing. And, you know, he mentions about flying off to an island and, you know, having a family and just sort of living life and trying to be happy. And so I like that the film kind of approaches these different sort of life philosophies and how people live for different reasons and different purposes. And even beyond that, the movie dares to compare us as humans to the zombies, and how the different approaches to resolving this problem really open up questions of like, okay, if we're the monsters, can we be saved? Are we even worth saving, or are we just kind of doomed to be the monsters that we are, sort of thing? And so again, there's just a lot of thought-provoking and interesting stuff here in a zombie apocalypse movie that I think is pretty great. And Romero just has a way to weave in all this stuff in a very entertaining and thoughtful and engaging sort of way that I just really had a good time with. Again, the practical effects work here is phenomenal. Dare I say it's even better than Dawn of the Dead. I like the look of the zombies a little better here, as there's just some more makeup effects and they look a little more gnarly and kind of decrepit and visceral and things like that. So that's pretty great. I feel like the zombies here are a little more threatening overall, and they move a little bit faster, and so they just kind of have a scarier presence about them. And man, the final 20 minutes is a whole lot of fun and very satisfying when all the military guys get their comeuppance and you get to see Rhodes literally get pulled apart by zombies. I just had a big old smile on my face. It's a fantastic kill. It looks phenomenal. Again, I can't praise the practical effects enough. It's just fantastic. The whole ending sequence with the zombie invasion is just awesome stuff and absolutely a blast. And I also like too, given the approach and how Romero wrote the movie, this is the first time we are actually rooting for the zombies. He's written these characters in the movie with the military guys that we hate and that we're actually rooting against, and we want the zombies to kill them. It's very interesting because you just assume the zombies are going to be the main threat. They're going to be the scariest, worst thing. But then he writes these characters that feel more threatening, that feel worse and more evil than the zombies, sort of thing. And so, again, I like that. It's just kind of a different take. It feels different and fresh. And I really appreciated that about the film. So overall, man, this is another pretty solid entry, and George Romero, man, he's bringing it with these zombies movies. I can't wait to see what he's got next. So overall for this one, man, I'm going to be a solid 8 out of 10 for Day of the Dead. I had quite a good time with this one. I think there's a lot here to appreciate, and this one holds up quite well, even 40 years later-ish, somewhere in there. But yeah, this is a fun time. I really enjoyed Day of the Dead. So up next, I'm going to hit a couple of the remakes. I'm going to hit up 1990s Night of the Living Dead, directed by Tom Savini, and then I'm going to do Zack Snyder's remake Dawn of the Dead from 2004. So that is what's up next. That is all I got for you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. If you got anything out of this video, go ahead and do me a favor and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.